What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and I'll be your host for this edition of the podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, and you can find all of my work at crumplerbaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Monday, April 21st. We'll start things off, as always, with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league. Kicking things off with the bad news, as first baseman Luis Arraez was placed on the 7-day concussion IL after he had a pretty scary collision at first base, running out a bunt single. Mason McCoy was recalled from the minors in a corresponding move, and the Padres are currently wrecked by injuries as Arraez is joined on the IL by Jake Cronenworth, Jason Hayward, Jackson Merrill, and Brandon Lockridge. Gavin Sheets and Yuli Gurriel are likely to be participating in a platoon at first base with Luis Arraez on the IL in San Diego. Next, we have catcher Rob Brantley, who was placed on the 10-day IL with a strained lat. It's really, honestly, just a move to make room for Agustin Ramirez, who was promoted officially on Monday to make his MLB debut, and he started against a lefty on Monday. It's still unclear whether or not he's going to be in a platoon with left-handed hitting Liam Hicks, who has been the everyday catcher for the Marlins, mostly against right-handed pitchers. But I think Ramirez should get everyday playing time moving forward. He is their number one catching prospect for a reason. He earned this promotion. I think he should play every day moving forward. And just because he started against a lefty doesn't mean he's not going to start against righties. We haven't seen that opportunity yet. I think he should get that tomorrow. Next, we have second baseman Chase Meadroff, who's placed on the 10-day IL with thumb inflammation. He had a solid start to his career for the White Sox. He was walking more than he was striking out, but he had no homers, absolutely no power for Chase Meadroff. He was playing second base versus right-handed pitchers and shortstop versus lefties. So in his absence, Jacob Amaya is going to take over every day at shortstop, while Lennon Sosa takes over every day at the keystone position. Bobby Dahlbeck was selected from the minors, and he's probably going to help a little bit around the infield, mostly as backup. And our last IL placement is pretty unfortunate. They're all unfortunate. But starting pitcher Spencer Strider was placed on the 15-day IL with a strained hamstring. He just returned from a super long absence with an elbow injury. Looked great in his debut, but this is what happens when you can rush back from elbow injuries, as you start to try to accommodate with other parts of your body. And here Strider injured his hamstring. Hopefully he's back in the minimum time in just a couple of weeks. We could see AJ Smith-Shawver recalled from the minors, as he was the Braves' choice in Strider's absence to start the season, but they've got plenty of guys on the 40-man roster in the minor league. So it's obviously the front office's call who's going to replace Strider moving forward. Now we'll take a look at some transactions. First, we'll start off with starting pitcher Easton Lucas, who was optioned to the minors by the Blue Jays. He allowed 14 runs across his last two starts, so he clearly needs to go to the minors and figure things out. Also, the Blue Jays have 2 days off in the next week, so they are able to run out a 4-man rotation in the time being, so they won't need a fifth starter replacement with Lucas in the minor leagues. Next, we have starting pitcher Logan Henderson, who was optioned to the minors by the Brewers. He had a great MLB debut, so it's sort of confusing that they sent him down, but he's got options. Tobias Myers is also returning on Thursday, so they needed to make some room in the rotation. In a corresponding move, this is pretty exciting. Craig Yoho was selected from the minors. He's probably my number one relief pitching prospect. I'm not a huge prospect guy, but I am a big relief pitcher guy, and Craig Yoho is pretty dope. 2024, last year, between high A, AA, and AAA, he had a 0.94 ERA, a 0.94 whip, and a 42.4% strikeout rate with a sub 10% walk rate. Pretty incredible from Craig Yoho, who's going to be pitching out of the bullpen for the Brewers. He made his MLB debut on Monday, and he's got a Devin Williams-like changeup, so he's pretty cool. I don't think he's going to get any saves, but I mean, it's a fun name anyway, so it's not going to be one that's easy to forget, but definitely don't forget Craig Yoho's name. Next, we have outfielder Ryan Kreidler, who was optioned to the minors by the Tigers. He was playing a lot of center field for them, but he had a negative 8 WRC plus, so clearly needs to go to the minors, figure some things out offensively. But in the meantime, it looks like Javi Baez is going to play in center field regularly. When I first saw that, I said, what the heck is going on? I had no idea he had already been playing a little bit in center field, but that's pretty crazy. If you told somebody that 5 years ago, they would have told you were crazy. But Javi Baez in center field for the Tigers. In a corresponding move, third baseman Jace Young was recalled from the minors. He is the number 7 Tigers prospect according to MLB Pipeline. He's got great plate plate discipline, and he displayed that last year in his 34-game MLB debut. And he will tap into some power in the majors if he can make more contact. Last year, he struck out over 30% of the time and didn't really tap into that power, but we should see that this year. He'll be on the strong side of a third base platoon with Andy Ibanez in Detroit. That's Jace Young. Next, we have Triston McKenzie, who was designated for assignment by the Guardians. Pretty surprising, as McKenzie was a pretty prized possession of the Guardians for the last decade or so. But the last 3 years have not been kind to him. 2023, 5.06 ERA, 2024, 5.11 ERA, and then this year, 11.12 ERA for Triston McKenzie, and that's him pitching out of the bullpen. His velocity is up 3 miles per hour, but he's had absolutely no control. 23% walk rate for Triston McKenzie, so he'll be off the 40-man roster. I think some teams should get a chance to claim him, so maybe he'll find a new home and figure things out. He probably needs surgery. I'm pretty sure he had some elbow issues that he never got resolved and just pitched through. That would probably fix some things, but hey, I get it. I wouldn't want to have surgery either. Next, we have outfielder Jake McCarthy, who was optioned to the minors. He's been terrible to start the season, negative 17 WRC plus at the plate. His swing is absolutely broken, plus 14% on the fly ball rate this year. So he's clearly trying to hit the ball in the air much too often. That's Jake McCarthy heading back to the minors to figure out his swing. Alec Thomas has already taken over everyday playing time in center field for the Diamondbacks. So there won't be too much of a playing time change here. No corresponding move has been made, though we're likely to see that coming through on Monday morning. And lastly, shortstop Mason Wynn is expected to be activated from the 10-day IL today. He's been out with a lower back strain. He just missed the minimum time. It looks like Brendan Donovan is likely to shift back to second base, while Nolan Gorman heads to the bench. And in terms of news, first baseman Nick Curts is expected to be promoted tomorrow by the A's. He's the number 1 A's prospect and was the number 4 pick in 2024. Curts in 2024 had a 368 batting average at A-ball and Double-A as a 21-year-old. He also hit 4 homers with a 227 WRC plus, walked more than he struck out, and that was just in 12 games. And he's been on fire to start this year at Triple-A as a 22-year-old. Nick Curts has been batting .321 with 7 homers and a 142 WRC plus in just 20 games at Triple-A. His promotion was going to be on Tuesday, but it's delayed because they're facing Patrick Corbin, so they don't want to have their top prospect left-handed hitter face a lefty in his debut. They want it to be successful, hit the ground running. So I'm not sure how defensively this is going to shake out. Obviously, they've got Tyler Soderstrom at first base, and they've got Brent Rooker at DH, so it's not really clear where Curts is going to go. It's likely that Rooker shifts to left field to accommodate either Curts or Soderstrom at DH. That means Miguel Andujar is likely to see a pretty large negative shift in playing time. Now we'll take a look at some of the notable performances from Monday, a day in which we had just 8 games on the slate. We'll start it off with our hitters, leading off with Eric Wagaman, who helped the Marlins to win versus the Reds, going 2 for 5 with a run, a home run, an RBI, and a steal to complete the combo meal. It was his 3rd homer of the year and his first steal of the year. The homer traveled 407 feet at 105 miles per hour. Pretty cool from Wagaman here, who's a career minor leaguer. He got a brief chance last year with the Angels, but didn't really do much. Maybe he can turn into something now that he's finally getting a real chance, his first real chance at 27 years old, because he's a career minor leaguer. Wagaman's batting at the top of the Marlins lineup every day, batting 2, 3, or 4. He's got great zone contact percentage, which is cool. That should lead to a high batting average and supports his 15% strikeout rate. He's also got a solid barrel rate, which suggests he should tap into at least a decent amount of power. And he's got a 52% hard hit rate, and that was before entering Monday, or that was entering Monday. So that suggests that he should continue to hit for a pretty high batting average, and StatCast expected metrics really like him, suggesting that he deserves to be batting well over 300, and he's already batting 277 with an 815 OPS. It's Eric Wagaman. So I think he's definitely worth the shot in 15 teamers, especially because he's got everyday playing time in the middle of the order. And if he can continue to play like he has been and show these great underlying metrics, then maybe he deserves some looks in shallower leagues. Next, we have third baseman Caleb Durbin, who did all he could, but the Brewers lost in San Francisco. He went 1-for-4 with a run, a home run, and 2 runs batted in. It was his first homer of the year, and it traveled 375 feet at 100 miles per hour. Durbin was acquired from the Yankees in the Devin Williams trade in the offseason, and he's playing third base every day for the Brewers since he got promoted just last week, I think. But he's batting ninth every day, so which is usually not great, but I think it is good for Caleb Durbin because he's a guy who steals a lot of bases, and you really want somebody at the bottom of the order, or at least somebody who's going to steal, to be at the bottom of the order, because it'll give you more opportunities to steal. At least that's how managers like to do it. So with Caleb Durbin at the bottom of the order, he should get plenty of run scoring opportunities, just not a lot of plate appearances. He doesn't strike out, which is cool, but it's not really empty batting average because he steals a lot. He's had 30 or more stolen bases in each of his last 3 minor league seasons. So that's Caleb Durbin. I think he's a great choice in points leagues because he doesn't strike out, and he's pretty cool in deep roto leagues because he plays every day and steals a lot of bases. Lastly, we have second baseman Bryson Stott, who did all he could, but the Phillies lost in Queens. He went 2-for-5 with a run, a home run, and 3 runs batted in. It was his second homer of the year. It traveled 399 feet at 103 miles per hour. And Bryson Stott is interesting and being mentioned here because he's moved to the leadoff spot for the Phillies, and he's batting in front of Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, and Nick Castellanos. It's pretty awesome. And Stott may not be an overwhelming offensive force, but he does have the ability to hit double-digit homers and steal 30 or more bases. Pretty much guaranteed. He's done that in each of the past 2 seasons. And now we're looking at a guy who could steal or who could score 100 or more runs batting in front of those guys instead of the 78 and 65 totals we saw each of the last 2 years for Stott. I think he is now a must roster in 10-teamers while he's leading off for the Phillies. But if you'd like a breakdown of other notable hitting performances from Monday, check out the daily Batters Box article over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out some notable starting pitching performances, opening with Gavin Williams, who helped the Guardians to win versus the Yankees, tossing 6 1/3 innings, allowing 7 hits and 2 earned runs. While walking 2 and striking out 8, he induced 21 whiffs with 37% CSW across 104 pitches. And I really expected the cutter to come alive in this one, seeing this success from Gavin Williams. But it was the sweeper as he threw it exclusively to righties for 4 whiffs and 50% CSW, which allowed his fastball to thrive upstairs for 10 whiffs and 35% CSW, while Gavin Williams' signature curveball landed downstairs for 6 whiffs and 34% CSW. The cutter was sort of a throwaway pitch. He couldn't locate it at all, but just adding a third pitch to his arsenal does a whole lot for Gavin Williams. So imagine what the cutter would do if it was legit. Imagine what he could do if the cutter was legit. But Gavin Williams gets the Red Sox next. I'm super excited for that one. I think the breakout is incoming. We just need to see him get the arsenal locked down. Next, we have Tyler McGill, who helped the Mets to win versus the Phillies, tossing 5 1/3 scoreless innings, allowing just 1 hit while walking 4 and striking out 10. He induced 14 whiffs with 38% CSW across 92 pitches. McGill had multiple whiffs with 5 different pitches, and he thrived on fastball called strikes as he had 10 of those with his 4-seamer, but he generally pulled off the Blake Snell blueprint with clear approaches against lefties and righties. He went fastball, sinker, slider versus righties and fastball, slider, change versus lefties with the occasional curve hoping to steal a strike. He had a pair of whiffs on that pitch, but most concerningly, he had a sub 50% strikeout or strike percentage on everything but the 4-seamer. The 4-seamer was pretty good at getting strikes, but nothing else was consistent. So moving forward, if batters can just lay off the secondaries and attack the heater, he might be in a lot of trouble, but it's working right now because he's got enough weapons to keep batters off balance, though I am a bit concerned this is a bit wobbly. McGill gets the Nationals next in the nation's capital, and that should be fine for now. But like I said, I'm a little bit concerned with the low strike rates. Lastly, we have Max Meyer as he helped the Marlins to win versus the Reds, tossing 6 shutout innings, allowing 5 hits while walking nobody. He struck out 14 with 24 whiffs and 49% CSW across 92 pitches to earn the golden goal, leading baseball in whiffs and CSW on the day. Max Meyer's slider was absolutely unreal in this one with 16 whiffs and 55% CSW at 44% usage. And then he threw some changeups to keep the lefties guessing for 4 whiffs and 53% CSW. He threw just 21 fastballs and sinkers in this one, and he even got a pair of sweeper whiffs, which you can add to that total of 16 on the slider to give him 18, which is crazy. And this is why Meyer was such a highly regarded prospect. That slider is unreal. It can have days like this, but clearly Max Meyer is figuring things out at the major league level. I would hold on tight. This was an unreal performance, and now he gets the Mariners in Seattle next in T-Mobile Park. So that should be another great performance from Max Meyer. But if you'd like a breakdown of every single start from Monday, give the Plus Pitch podcast a listen and check out Nick's daily SP roundup over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out the relievers that got saves and the closers that pitched outside of save situations or blew their saves. Starting with the former, Camilo Doval recorded his third save with a perfect ninth as Ryan Walker was resting after pitching on back-to-back days. Edwin Diaz recorded his sixth save as he worked around a solo shot. Will Vest recorded his second save with a perfect ninth. Tommy Kahnle had pitched on back-to-back days for the Tigers. Justin Slayton recorded his third save with a perfect ninth. Aroldis Chapman faced the top of the order in the eighth in that one. It was against the White Sox, so it's like the top of the order isn't really too threatening, but nonetheless, that's how Alex Cora decided to go with that one. Cade Smith recorded his first save of the season with a scoreless ninth. Emmanuel Clase had pitched on 3 days in a row, so he needed some rest. And lastly, Jesus Tinoco recorded his second save with a perfect ninth. And this is clearly a mess in Miami, as there are still 3 names in the hat for the closer role: Tinoco, Bender, and Fauché. In terms of closers to pitch outside of save situations or below their saves, Emilio Pagan pitched a perfect ninth down by 3 after Alexis Diaz blew open a tie game in the 8th, allowing 3 runs. And lastly, Raisel Iglesias allowed 3 runs, pitching the 9th up by 4. He escaped that one, and the Braves still held on to win. But if you'd like more information on relievers, make sure to check out Rick Graham's weekly articles over on pitcherlist.com. And before we look forward to today's games, we're going to take a quick break. Now we'll look forward to Tuesday, April 22nd, a day in which we'll have a full slate of 15 games. My matchup of the day is Shota Imanaga versus Dustin May. We got 2 very recognizable pitchers squaring off. It should be fun. Both of these guys are electric when they're on. Hopefully we get a good pitching matchup in that one. In terms of probable starters, we've got 5 guys in the auto starts tier, including Imanaga. We've also got Christopher Sanchez in Queens, Bailey Ober versus the White Sox, and Bryce Miller in Boston. In our probably starts tier, we've got 7 guys, and that's where we'll find our streamer of the day in Nick Martinez as he takes on the Marlins in Miami. Martinez is solid enough to take advantage of the lowly Marlins lineup and should be a clear streamer on Tuesday. I'd also keep an eye out for Jordan Hicks versus the Brewers. It's not the best matchup, but Hicks is really good. He throws really hard. I don't know how he's rostered so little across leagues, and I'm probably a big part of that. I don't have him in my home league, though I should be rostering him. Nonetheless, I think Hicks is a good stream on Tuesday if you are desperate, or not even desperate, if you need a start on Tuesday. In terms of hitter suggestions, I go for Cardinals hitters versus Braves TBD because Strider is heading to the IL. We don't know who's going to start on Tuesday for the Braves. Could be a bullpen game. It could be a last-minute call-up. Either way, I think the Cardinals hitters should be able to take advantage of an underprepared Braves pitching staff. I'd also look at A's hitters versus Patrick Corbin. I'm just not going to quit streaming against him. I just don't think he's really made out for getting major league hitters out anymore. And I will close things out with our relievers to watch. We have just one, as Raisel Iglesias had pitched on 3 of the last 4 days. So maybe Dylan Lee can get a save on Tuesday. It's not really clear who's the next man up in Atlanta, but everybody else should be good to go on Tuesday in terms of relief pitchers. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord and to support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. Tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast. And make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.